Let me tell you a little bit about my day. I get a phone call at 5:30 in the morning. Okay, never in my life has good news come to me via telephone at 5:30 in the morning. So, okay, what's going on? Robert Whittaker's out. Okay, I got to go, for me, my participation, I got to go on ESPN radio. Well, by the time I get onto ESPN radio, which represents about 45 minutes later, the fans are calling for Robert Whittaker to be stripped. Excuse me, guys, as a community, we don't behave that way, okay? This is not an excuse like the dog ate my homework. The guy was in surgery, no fault of his own. The only thing we say to Robert Whittaker right now is, get well soon, thoughts are with you. The end. And we mean it sincerely because we're not bad people. So let's fix that right now. Now, where does the division go? Okay, we were promised two things. When I got an airplane to come to Australia, two things. First off, we're going to figure out who the world champion was. Second, we're going to find out who the number one contender for that world championship is. Now, cards are subject to change. We got 50% of that fulfilled. Israel Adesanya comes out on top. But because we did not figure out who the champion was, the question is, who does Israel fight next and when does he do it? I believe, as I try to digest this thing and interpret and study the history of the industry, I think the first thing we have to know is, when is Robert Whittaker back? Because if we know he's coming back in a relatively acceptable amount of time as to Israel Adesanya being able to go through a training camp and get back in there, I think that Robert Whittaker will remain the champion, and then you will have to fight it out in the media through Gastelum and Adesanya. While I offered to you that Whittaker did absolutely nothing wrong, I will remind you that Kelvin Gastelum is in that exact same spot. He did absolutely nothing wrong. He did everything right, and he lost an opportunity. But you want to know who else was promised something here? Is the fans of Australia. This card sold out in 14 minutes. I know that because it made international news. I know it became international news because they beat in the same venue. They beat out the Rolling Stones, who had the current record of 22 minutes for a sellout. All the credit for that sellout went to Robert Whittaker based on geographical location and something known as logic. Well, excuse me, Robert Whittaker wasn't going to walk out there and fight the air. He had a dance partner. That partner was named Kelvin Gastelum. Kelvin Gastelum also gets credit. Kelvin Gastelum was also in extremely high demand for this fight. Best case scenario for me, Robert Whittaker makes a speedy recovery. Him and Kelvin not only fight, we come back here where the fight was promised and we redo that fight again. That's a best case scenario. I do think if there is a meaningful period of time that is going to have to take place between Whittaker and his next title defense. And I have to remind you, because this supports my theory, he's already been out for 12 months. And come hook or crook at the 365-day mark, you are now eligible for a stripping of the title. They are not going to strip a young man who's in the hospital. This isn't going to count against him. But it all does start to add up as a small amount of time goes by, as we start to not have to worry about being insensitive to somebody's health, and we have to just look at the division and what's best for it. Eventually, he's going to have to get on with it. That is where I think, again, we all need to agree that the common denominator in this becomes Kelvin Gastelum, who then gets his opportunity, and now it will perhaps be for the interim championship. And it will be Kelvin versus Israel Adesanya. We're not going to get that information for another at least week, and maybe even an extended period of time on what the recovery is and how the surgery went for Whittaker. But that's very important because that's the first piece. I also think we need to band together, in all fairness, and you guys know I come to you as a homer, and I come to you with absolute biasness, so you smart marks out there, don't start tagging me and letting me know. I will fully admit it now. But I do think, in fairness, we need to band together. The Kelvin Gastelum, whether it's against Whittaker for the strap that he was promised or it's against Adesanya for the interim title to fill the void, does belong in that cage opposite one of those two guys with a belt on the line.